day is getting old and it's all coming towards an end. It's now 11 minutes past 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, the 18th of March 2018. The grand final of the F2 division in the 2017-18 season between Diamond Creek and North Eltham Wanderers has come to a conclusion, with Diamond Creek winning it and taking home the flag. And if my memory is not inaccurate, that is the only premiership that Diamond Creek Cricket Club gets this season. So what this means is, was the final game of the 2017-18 cricket season, and consequently today was the last day of cricket to be broadcast for this season by Channel 8, and this is the last video that Channel 8 will be broadcasting for this cricket season. And so this is the end. This is the end of the 2017-18 season. Channel 8 are shutting down production because the cricket season has come to an end, and we will have to we may or may not reorganize ourselves come the start of the next season. We may or may not come back for the 2018-19 season. All of that is up in the air and we won't know. We probably will not be doing anything for the 2018 football season. There is a certain possibility that if all the ducks are in the right position, if everything is convenient for us, if the wind is blowing in the right direction, if the stars point to it, there might be a possibility that we might film a game in the football season, but right now that sounds very unlikely, considering the circumstances going ahead into the autumn, winter and then spring of 2018. The circumstances are such that being able to get down to a ground on a Saturday are unlikely. So to actually film any football games for this 2018 football season is very unlikely. The only time we'll be dealing with football will probably be with the podcast on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio, which I host, which is a discussion show about the AFL, and so the possibility of actually filming any local football games sounds very unlikely, and you certainly should not expect any of it to happen. But there might be a possibility of filming one game here and there. We'll just have to wait and see. But so a couple of things that are uncertain right now. One is the possibility of filming a football game, which probably won't happen, and then the possibility of whether or not we decide to come back next season and actually film cricket in the 2018-19 season. That is an uncertainty as well, and so we'll just have to hold off before making anything about that. I'd just like to end by just pointing out that the decision by Channel 8, particularly the efforts by me inside Channel 8 to actually launch this cricket broadcast over the course of the 2017-18 summer was not well planned, and it was very much spur of the moment. You see, back a long time ago, in the 2006-07 season, was the last time Channel 8 filmed cricket, and that's when we were up in Panton Hill and we watched the under-16s win their premiership, and we saw also the premiership ones in the Money Shield fail to beat Yarrambat in their semi-final. That was, so it was over, it was 11 years ago, or 10 and a half years ago, that Channel 8 filmed a game of cricket, and so we had been out of function in all that time, and we had everything had been packed away and stored away since that for 10 and a half years. But, and also, none of what Channel 8 had ever broadcast and filmed had ever been actually publicly broadcast. So, all of the cricket that we had broadcast, particularly in the 2006-07 season, but also in the 2004-05 season, none of it was publicly available. And we had stored it all on VHS cassette tapes, which had been spending over, almost a decade in a grubby, grimy, wet, dusty basement. And we'd made the decision last year, in the winter of 2007, that we would correct this problem. That we had filmed all this cricket, because particularly it came to the anniversary of the actual premiership. It came to March 2017, which was the anniversary of when the under-16 ones for Panton Hill won that premiership, which we filmed, and it became obvious that there was nothing to actually mark the occasion for, because all of that footage was stored away. And so it became clear over the course of the autumn and then the winter of 2017 that this had to be redressed, that something had to be done to actually correct this problem. And that's when I made the decision to actually recover those old videos in those old VHS tapes in the grubby and grimy basement, and actually publicly make them available to view for the first time in the 10.5 years since the event actually happened. And so it was my efforts to actually get the equipment, to actually get the organisation done, to actually put in the long hours of very tedious work in front of a computer, to actually recover and then produce all those videos of those old cricket games, and then publicly make them available on the Channel 8 YouTube channel so that they can be viewed. And that happened about the time of spring in 2017, and by the time that came to an end and we had all of the games published and publicly available, it was about August or September 2017. That's when all of that material, which had never been before published, was finally available for public viewing, and we were very pleased with what we'd done. It hasn't received a great deal of reception. Most of these videos that we've uploaded of those old cricket games have only received maybe 10 views, which means a typical game of 10 videos has barely gotten 100 views, which is understandable, because who would want to watch a home and away game of a suburban cricket game that happened 10 years ago, when most of the people who have played the game have either moved on to different clubs or have stopped playing cricket altogether. And so it's understandable that there wasn't this huge groundswell of interest immediately to to watch these games and to rewatch the memories of what actually happened in those games. And so I was not overly disappointed that we did not receive a huge amount of public notoriety or public reception for what we'd done. Mostly that work to recover those videos was an act of archival nobility, an act for posterity, a certain amount of duty as television creators to actually state on the public record what is facts by actually making all the materials publicly available and setting everything in order properly. And that's why we did what we did, to make sure that even if no one immediately was interested in watching and being entertained by those videos, the fact that those videos were available, that those memories were going to be preserved through the World Wide Web, that was what we sought to do, and that's what we tried to accomplish through the course of our work. And then the decision was made about whether to relaunch Channel 8 for the 2017-18 season, to actually get Channel 8 Studios back running after 10.5 years of being shut down, and all of it was out of order. And that was an extraordinary set of circumstances, because this wasn't well planned. None of this came about through detailed organisation and funding projects and copious amounts of detail. This was a spur-of-the-moment event. We had decided that we made the decision to relaunch Channel 8 and to actually purchase the necessary equipment that would be needed to actually film these games of cricket, and actually put in the time to actually schedule people to attend these games and actually film them and commentate them and produce them and record the documents and actually store the videos and produce them and publish them. All of that hard work that is made to make a television show was all made over the course of a couple of weeks. After we had made all those old Channel 8 videos publicly available, and we had finished our project of archival restoration, immediately the idea came up of relaunching Channel 8, just because of the nostalgia of how awesome Channel 8 was at the time. And without proper planning, without a set agenda, just out of the sheer emotion of having lived through what was a great experience at Channel 8 those 10.5 years ago, and wanting to go through that again, that's the decision that was made. Let's try to relaunch Channel 8. And immediately over the course of those 2 weeks, the equipment was bought, the planning was brought up, a couple of meetings happened, everything happened so quickly that by the time we had actually gotten to the first game and we were at the Marngrook Oval to watch Diamond Creek Seconds in a one-day game against Riverside, round 1 in would have been October of 2017, it all happened very quickly. From the time when we first made got the idea of when we actually got the equipment necessary to restore the old tapes, from that to actually deciding to get the equipment to film the new cricket would have been 6 weeks at most. It was a very short period of time, and it was very impromptu and spontaneous, and it wasn't very well planned, and that gives a sense of just the raw emotional drive that we had at Channel 8. We did not plan this out properly. We did not have a clear agenda at mind. We did not know what we wanted to achieve. We just wanted to try this out and do this and give it a shot and see what happens. And that's when we bought the equipment that was needed to film this, because all the equipment from 10.5 years ago was mostly unworkable now. Most of the cords and the cameras was unusable. Most of the VCRs were unusable. And so we just had to buy new equipment, and we didn't know whether we could actually afford to actually budget for this equipment, but we bought it anyway. We just went out and did it, and we just thought that things would work out over the course of the season if we just tried to do it immediately. And that was a very reckless course of action, obviously. That was a very dangerous system. It's not a proper way of doing business, and it's not a proper way of actually making television. But that's what we did, and that's, by the time it actually came about, I was absolutely stunned that I was suddenly at Marngrook Oval filming a game of cricket with Damien, Hayden, Haydos by my side, when just a few weeks ago, just a couple of months ago, I would have been working away at Bizz 99.9 FM substitute radio, working on just my radio job, and not even worrying about the visual element of media. I would have just been worrying about audio in the podcasts at Bizz. So it was a dramatic change, and I think it was a good move. and I've been very proud of what we've achieved this season. It's been a very enjoyable season. There have been plenty of things that have happened this season that have not gone our way. Lots of our footage has been really under par because of the rain and the wind, and it just becomes just so difficult to actually film at certain grounds. There's too much sunlight. The camera might overheat from the direct sun exposure. Our equipment was flooded at one point because there was one torrential rain game, and then other times it was too hot and the game cooled off. So there were so many difficulties over the course of this season, but we've produced so much good cricket that I just can't say how much I'm proud of what we've done. Despite everything else, despite our problems, despite the weaknesses, despite the limitations of our equipment, despite the limitations of my abilities to go certain places, despite the limitations of how much manpower we have, how many different people can man certain equipments, when Damien Haydos is not available at certain times, despite all our problems and limitations, and that isn't even to describe what the video editing software problems that we've had. We had to keep purchasing different programs because one didn't actually serve our needs, so we had to keep going through different ones and trying them out. And then we had to notice so many different things through YouTube to actually get the videos to actually look the way we wanted. There was such a lot of mistakes and bad planning. Well, no planning. There was just so many errors that we made along the way, and we learnt from those errors. That's because we didn't plan things out ahead. We didn't set up a detailed plan of action of what we wanted to do. We just did it immediately. So obviously, when you don't plan ahead, when you don't think things through, you actually find that you keep making terrible mistakes, and you have to correct for those mistakes and try again. And that's what we did throughout at least the first half of this season. For the first half of this season was just me and the rest of the people here at Channel 8 making mistake after mistake after mistake, and making fools of ourselves because we didn't understand YouTube properly, we didn't understand our equipment properly, we didn't understand our editing programs properly, and these mistakes just kept piling up, which is why there's so many problems with the first few matches that we broadcast. But we worked through them, and I believe that what we have produced, what we have come up with by the end of this season, is a working formula for actually broadcasting cricket. So I am very happy with what we've come up with. I am very happy of everything that we've learned through this season, and I stand by all my decisions that I've made over the past 12 months. It's been an extraordinary 12 months because we're coming up to the 1-year anniversary of Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio being launched. And so I think that what we have achieved over the course of this winter has been enormous, and it's been tremendous, and I'm very happy with what we've done, and I stand by everything, and I hope that you, the fans, you, the viewers, have actually enjoyed what we've done. Because if no one was watching these videos, if we had 0, 1, 2 views each video that we produce week after week, this wouldn't really be worth it. But the fact that we often get 20, 30, 40, 50 people viewing our videos and actually wanting to see these games suggests that there is an audience for this type of cricket. People do enjoy watching local cricket if it is filmed well, if it is produced well, if it is published on YouTube and actually can be publicly available. So there is an audience for this sort of stuff, and we have tapped into it in our own small, little, insignificant way, and we have produced at least something that is noticeable and interesting, and people, certainly in small numbers, but certain amounts of people have taken notice, and they've been willing to watch our videos. So thank you everyone for watching our videos over the course of this season. If you hadn't have actually bothered to watch these videos, there would be a 0% chance that we would be coming back next season. But the fact that you're there, that you were interested, that you watched our cricket, suggests that is a very strong encouragement and a very strong factor which would come into play for our renewal next season. So if that comes about, it's all thanks to you for actually sticking by us throughout the course of this season. But I could continue on talking for quite a long time more, because I haven't even got to the worst stories of what happened over the course of this season, but I think it's appropriate that I wrap things up now and we call it off and we actually say goodnight, because otherwise we could be going all night, and it's getting quite late in the day, getting late in the evening now, so it's time to say goodnight. Bye from Channel 8, and we'll hopefully see you at some point in the future, sometime later on in this year. So it's time to say goodbye. So this is Channel 8, the local sports network, in association with our partners Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio, and I have been your host and lead commentator, Chukka Wilson. Thank you very much for following along with this broadcast. Goodbye from all of us. Take care, enjoy the winter, and hopefully we'll be back next spring for more cricket next season. Until then, goodbye and good luck.
Pretend that this is real. Let's say this really is the deal. The way you put me out, it makes me doubt my sanity. You toe the line until it breaks. You savor all of your mistakes, and then you do whatever pleases you. It's all you know. Grace is never the reward. It's a price you never could afford. You can count your change, but you can't exchange your day.